So we start with the quiche dough. Okay. So the butter is cut into smaller chunks and it is in the refrigerator. You want that quite firm. Okay. So just want to add the rest of the ingredients, and then you also want to have cold water because you don't want the butter to completely melt when you're beating. You just want like a coarse mixture together, that is having the butter broken down into smaller pieces, and the ice cold water um, will retain the smaller chunks of the butter as it is, because it is like a pastry and not like a cookie. You want to have like, like layers, not like the puff type, but this also something like, you don't want to have like a tart base which would be like too hard. You want it to be soft with some layers, and those layers will be because of the smaller bits of the butter that is not melted during the dough making process. So that is very important to have the butter very cold and in smaller chunks, and using cold water to bind them all together. So it's not going to be like a smooth, soft dough. It's going to be a bit of, with some textures on top and not neat looking, but that is neat for the quiche base. And then we will be rolling it in between the parchment paper, in between two sheets of parchment paper, and then cut them out. And then this is the tart mold that I have in which I'm going to bake the quiche. But right now, blind baking has to happen. So for blind baking, once I have the pastry done, and I will be filling this up with, I'm going to show you anyway. So this is what I will use. And then for blind baking, I have some rice. So this just, it will go into the oven and then nothing will change and it will come back. So you can use your like smaller chickpea, or any dal for that matter, or lentil, right? Anything like that which can go into the oven, but you keep retaining them for the sake of blind baking. So that is what I will do. I'll send it for blind baking, and after which is when I'm going to make the filling for the quiche. Okay. So now we have the butter. Butter is kept in the fridge. I thought let us not just have it around in here. So ideally, I'd like to use my fingers to bring it together. So that way I will control how the crumbs of the butter is going to be. But in the recipe, obviously, it is put to use a stand mixer. But so you can see the texture of the butter. So I'm pressing like really well, but it is just not squishing, right? So it is like breaking into smaller pieces like that. So I just want to put just breaking them down because it is quite firm and not soft. I want to show how I would like to do. So it's just the tip of the fingers, sides. It's just the tip of the fingers. You just want to break down the butter. Because using a stand mixer, because we are used to doing the creaming method and stuff like that, you don't want to break down the butter and that will melt. Now use the tip of your finger, break the butter, and that entire thing is just going to become coarse. Don't use your entire hand as well, just the tip. And just breaking the butter like so. You want like a coarse mixture where the butter is in smaller pieces. Bigger chunks of butter should be broken down, and then you have like a coarse flour. I think I'll transfer it into this one, so it's easier for me to also show you how the texture changes. all the bigger chunks of the butter. It's all broken down. And that's the coarse powder you have. So I don't have the bigger chunks of the butter. So now this is the texture that you will need. I just want to show how it looks. That's the coarse mixture. Now this is a little difficult to get in the stand mixer or even the hand beater, because the butter will just bind everything together, and that's something you want to avoid. So though the recipe says use hand beater just for the ease of it, as a step you will do this part where you have like a coarse powder like that. And into this, I'm going to use the ice cold water. Don't want to knead so much. The purpose is to bring it all together into one dough, but no kneading at all. Just that you're able to hold it together as one. Don't expect it to be a smooth dough. That's all. I haven't even gone inside and then tried kneading it. It's just bringing it together. So that's how rough the surface that's going to look. Not very neat, unlike the bread and stuff. But that is the completed dough. Now this is still packed again. 2 sheets of the parchment paper, flour and extra flour. We just sprinkle some flour over this. So it's just going to split like that, but once you're rolling, it is going to be fine. Ritu, circle. Let me roll. Let me check the thickness. It can be thinner than that. I'm just trying to level it up. So the thickness, like it's like a 2 mm thick is what we need. So then I have a circle cutter here. So you can see the butter is like, I don't know if you're able to see on the sides, you can just reduce the color to show. It's like not a completely well combined dough. The flour and the butter, you can see like they are separate, which means they have not combined like really well, which is what we want. And that's why we start with making like a coarse powder and then adding cold water. So the butter bits are just right in there. So the excess, just because it is rolled, but still it is not needed as much, we'll just bring it together like gently. Don't need much. But then if you feel like you have overworked on this dough, just put it in the fridge, like in a covered bowl. Allow the butter to firm up a bit, and then you can take it and do the same step again by rolling it in the same parchment and getting the maximum out of this dough. For now, I will just finish with these three. Now, because this is a Teflon coated tart pan, I don't need to butter it. It is going to come out by itself. So now the fluted pattern on the tart mold, I just want to press it across. So the pattern is seen well. So you need to press it down well. Now this excess on the top, we can remove. Also pressing here. So this tart pan, the base is loose. I'll just open one and show. So the base is loose, so removing it is like quite easier for me that way. Pressing against the fluted wall. And then this also, you don't want it to rise. So we kind of dock it. And then blind bake it. Now for blind baking is, I just showed I have the rice. Now let me show how I'm going to use that. So I have some more parchment paper with me. And that I'm just going to drop it in and top. So that's how it looks. I'm just going to keep the parchment paper in and then add the rice. So this weight will not allow that tart base to rise. And that way, that cavity will still hold for me without rising. And that is where we want the filling to go, because we need that cavity for the filling to come in, right? So Side, side, side. Okay, so for blind baking, this one is ready. I have the baking tray. Now this I will send it out to bake for about at 180. You can follow the one that is there in the recipe, 180 for about 8 minutes. It'll just get baked, which is like par baking. And then we will be adding the quiche filling. So in the meantime, I think we'll just get the filling done, but let me clear up and then I will get back. So now this will go into the fridge because it is better to have the butter firm up again and then we could roll, which I will do it off the class time. But we have 3 of them to show you how it works. Now I will get back after a break to show the filling for the quiche. So for the quiche filling, the blind baking is done. It is quite warm. So these are the shells with blind baking. So it is not fully baked yet. It is soft, but then it is not like a raw dough, right? It is not the raw dough. A little bit of golden brown on the edges is what we have. It is quite hot. So that is ready. And now on the saucepan, I'm just going to get butter because this is like a very rich filling. It has like cream, cheese. So onto the melted butter, onions. This quantity that is given there is quite so much, and it's just more than the 3 tarts that we will be doing, but I'm just going to use all of it. But I'm going to make more shells and then use up the filling. Now, once it starts to turn golden brown, I'm just going to add the mushrooms. The mushrooms are finely chopped. So the mushroom is also going to shrink. It will leave out some water and all the moisture is all gone, and then it will shrink in size. Now, once that is done, that is when I will add the spinach. And just because I'm calling it the mushroom spinach quiche, which it also tastes really nice. Spinach is also there, but obviously it is up to you. What do you want to use? I'm just going to leave it covered for some time. எல்லாத்துக்கும் பத்தலையே. You can see the mushrooms leaving out water as it cooks. The moisture comes out. We wait for that moisture also to escape, evaporate, and then the mushroom dries and cooks up well. And after that is done is when we will do, because the spinach is going to take lesser time. So once the size of the mushroom reduces, it's like cooked. Now we can just avoid using the lid so the moisture is clear and it dries up. At the stage, I'm going to add in the spinach as well. Could have chopped the spinach even into finer pieces, though it is going to reduce in size. The tart pan is like quite small, right? So that way, if they are in smaller bits, then you can equally distribute them with mushrooms and the spinach. Now into this, let me add the salt, pepper, and chili flakes. That is all. There isn't much of a flavor. You don't add like the other spices for the quiche because you want that to be quite subtle. And the greens are also cooked well. Then the cooking part is done, after which we'll just need to mix it up with a egg and cream. I think this should be fine. I'm just going to transfer this into this. So it just cools down because I want to add this into the cream. I'm just dividing and putting, so I just give more room for it to cool down because there is the eggs. You don't want this heat to scramble that egg. You want like a quiche filling has to be like quite smooth. So while this is cooling, I'll mix the liquids together. There is egg, cream, and cheese. So cheese goes at the end. I'm going to use a wire whisk. Add the egg, whisk it. Okay. This I'm going to add the cheese. So this like tempering, I'm just going to start adding little by little. You don't want to throw in the entire thing because that could scramble the egg. Or you can wait for that cooked vegetables to cool down completely, and then when it is cool, then you can add them all together. Now once you've added some part of it, and that would have tempered the egg, and then the entire portion can go in. Ladle. So once it's all combined, then it is good to go on the par baked quiche shell. Now into this par baked shell, I'm just going to add this filling. Now there is one more stage of baking, which is like the final flash bake that will have a layer of cheese on top of this. Now this will go and get baked for how long? 15 minutes, I think. 10. What does the recipe say? Recipe sheet. So with the filling for 10 minutes until the filling is jiggly, that's what it says. So you don't want to over bake. When the top is still jiggly, which means the sides are baked and the center is still jiggly, that is when you stop. Now the recipe says 10 minutes, but check somewhere from 7 to 8 minutes. And when it is jiggly, you take it out and then sprinkle a layer of cheese on top, and then it goes for another 2 minutes just for flash baking. But you could avoid the cheese, and with this filling also you can just have it done, but that 8 minutes or 10 minutes, the jiggle part has to be there, otherwise the filling is going to be overcooked and that is not going to have a really nice mouth feel for a completed quiche. So let's put this into the oven. Okay, so the quiche is done. It is actually quite soft. You can see the jiggle, and you can add the cheese on top as per the recipe and then bake it for another 2 minutes. So you'll have like the top completely covered. Now we have all of it. I'm just going to cut knife, plate and knife. So let me just go through the pizza. It's been a while, so you can see the thin crust, and then you have the sauce and then the filling with a layer of cheese on top. Let me just pick up another one. You can see how soft the base is. So this is with the stuffing, the cheese and the vegetable. And this one was just the cheese. So the cheese is all locked inside. And let's have the Korean one cut, and then finally let's cut the quiche because quiche is quite warm now. We have this one. You can see that stuffing of the cream cheese and then the cheese on the top as well. Here obviously you could also just break it open with your hands to see how soft the bread is. With a cream cheese filling. And then let's just do the quiche as well. This is like something that you have to spoon and eat. So it's not good to just lift, but you can see the gooey filling, the quiche is filling there. So let me just. Okay, so you've cut all the four, and now I think that will be the end of the session, which is good. And the group will be there, and you can get back with your queries as you make and put it on the WhatsApp group. The recording will be available, say, like after a couple of days, so you can start watching them over again. And see you in another interesting class.